Welcome to The Business of Family, the podcast where we explore the stories, challenges, and opportunities of family businesses. I'm your host, Tammy Buss, and I'm a family business survivor and also a family business advisor. In this show, we will be talking with family business leaders and experts to bring you insights and inspiration so you too can survive your family business journey. Whether you're a founder, a successor, a professional, or just curious about family businesses, this podcast is for you. So today I'm really excited that I have Michael and Frank Luisi from Rubinet Faucet Company. And we had your dad on a couple of weeks ago, and I know you haven't had a chance to listen to it yet because I don't want you to listen to it. I wanted to get the other story. So anyway, I'm really excited about this. If you haven't listened to the story about Rubinet Faucet Company here in Canada, for our listeners, go back and look and listen to that. You get the full story from the founder himself. And trust me, I didn't get a lot of words in edgewise. So anyway, I want to start with a little bit of background. Tell me a little bit about yourselves. Who wants to go first, Michael or Frank?
I'll go first. Being the older brother, I'll go first. My name is Frank Luisi. I'm 46 years old now, and kind of been involved with Rubinet basically my whole life. It's probably one of the only real jobs I've ever had.
We might have heard that.
Yeah. According to him, that's always.
I know. Yeah. I didn't want you to hear it ahead of time. I needed you to be.
I'm sure our father says that, but in a lot of ways, he's not lying. He's telling the truth. Because me and my brother have worked there probably from 10 years old all the way to today. So before that, we come from an artistic family. My dad was a drummer. My mom was a dancer. And my brother played drums. And I was a dancer. And that's what I was doing professionally. Traveling the world, dancing. Working with Cirque du Soleil and a lot of big music artists. Traveling the world.
Wow.
So yeah. It's different to be selling faucets now. But
And what is your role now?
Right now, I'm in charge of sales and marketing in the business. So
good. Okay.
Yeah, I've worked in every area in the business, from the back all the way to where I am today. So I think that was very crucial for me and my brother. But it's got us where we are today.
Good, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but your turn. Younger brother.
My name's Mike Luisi. Similar to my brother, grew up in the business. We started working there actually even earlier, like probably 5, 6, sweeping floors, whatever we had to do, making catalogs. It was like our second home. Always felt that way. Grew up with all the people there. To be honest, it was kind of the only job I've ever really worked truly. As he said, I got into music and drums and film as well, went to film school, had a production company. We did like minor things, weddings and bar mitzvahs and some music videos and stuff like that. As much as we wanted to make movies, we didn't. And also, I was in a band. I didn't travel nowhere near as much as my brother. We kind of just did some local shows and stuff. But I really enjoyed music. It was a big passion for a while. But always, even when he was dancing, even when I was playing music, we were always working summers or working nights. Rubinet was always usually part of our life.
So then what, and this is for both of you, you can answer this for me. So what made you leave your passion of dancing and music and traveling the world to come work full time at your family business, which has been around for over 40 years, which is absolutely amazing, and great faucets, man, oh man.
That's a fantastic question.
Yeah,
I think for me, I think for me it wasn't about leaving my passion. I found another passion with Rubinet, and watching my dad, the way he's done things, is I realized that you can bring elements of things that, like, for me, it was about art. I love the art world. And Rubinet is a lot of that. Mm-hmm. We design, create, manufacture our own products. And my dad is the guy doing that for the business. So I realized there's a big element of the artistic side that we gravitate to in Rubinet. And once I realized that I can kind of marry those together and be with my father and my brother, I thought that was the perfect combination.
Now, were you asked to come into the business? Did you ask to come into business? How did you get in there? Like,
So I think that was interesting because our dad never pushed us. And being at that business conference where me and my brother met you, it was very interesting because a lot of family businesses, there's kind of guidance from the parents to guide the children to say, okay, maybe you're good at this, or we had none of that. So it's really amazing the way things ended up working out because it was truly organic. It just happened organically. Our father left the window open for us, and it was going to be up to us if we wanted to do it or not. And we actually naturally gravitated to come back to be part of the business. And my dad told me at one point, you have to make a decision. And at that point I left because I was doing really well with the dancing, and I was traveling all over the world, and I was about 19, and every other week I'd be telling my dad I have to leave. Oh, I'm going to Europe, or I'm going here. And eventually he goes, if you take this next job, don't come back. You have to decide what you want to do. If you're going to pursue your dance, do that. If not, decide. And I chose at that point, I want to pursue my dance. And that was till about 24. And then at 24, 25, I ended up coming back to Rubinet.
and you know what I love about that story is I talk to founders all the time who have kids who are doing something different. And they go, oh, the kids aren't interested. They're off being a dancer. Like, what does dancing have to do? He's with Cirque du Soleil. Why would he want to come back and sell faucets or in manufacturing? But I keep saying, keep the doors open and don't, always look at the opportunities and to talk to your kids about there is an opportunity for you to come back here, because it doesn't matter what your passion is or what your education is. Coming into a family business is just incredible, and never kind of close that door that they're not interested, and so they don't talk about it, right?
Well, I think because he allowed us, when we were discussing things, there was always that option to go ahead, explore. And you took the opportunity and you explored your passions and you took them as far as you thought you could take them. I think for me, a big realization right around the same age, like I'm 5 years behind. So for me, it was around 25 too. Or not even to sound like dark or anything, but reality sets in at a certain point where you're enjoying playing drums, you're enjoying making films, you're enjoying being with your friends. But at a certain point, like you spend all this time chasing a dream and fail to realize you're kind of living it, and you gotta check in, right? And all of a sudden you go, okay, what's my goal? It's like, okay, I want to start a family. I want to get married. At a certain point, you start realizing it's like, okay, well, how am I going to do that making $100 for playing a drum gig or $200? Like at a certain point, reality kind of sets in.
I think that frontal lobe starts to fully develop.
100%. And you also, at the same time, in a good way, you acknowledge, I'm really good at working at Rubinet. Like I've been there my whole life. I don't know anything else. That's my profession. Like that's what I know inside and out. And then you commit. And when you fully commit, everything changes.
Now, did you work while you were drumming? Were you able to work there?
Yes, but it was part-time, right? So I was working there evenings or on weekends. At the same time, like there was a period I took a couple of years, I wrote a movie script. I tried. I really did try. I devoted like a strong 2 years. Aside from the production company in Rubinet and drumming, I was writing a script. I tried to get funding. I did everything that I could. Didn't pan out. Right? But I know that I tried. So when I closed the book on it, I felt good that I at least gave it a go. But once that didn't work, I really realized I'm like, it's time to kind of plant, and it's time to kind of work really hard toward the future.
And what role are you in now in Rubinet?
I would say operations.
That's a big title.
Yes.
That's a lot.
It was also a gradual progression, much like my brother, starting from the smallest job there, and you just kind of, I think that's an important thing, is learning it from the inside out. And you kind of, as time passes, you're kind of earning the respect of your coworkers rather than just kind of plopping in at some point, right? So I think that really went a long way. And then I started realizing that probably one of my best talents was delegating and kind of structuring, delegating, moving to the next one. Structuring, delegating, moving to that. Like
That's a good leader quality, because a lot of times it's hard to let go and you want to do it yourself, particularly as a founder, right? It's your baby, it's your, your passion, and nobody can do it the way you do. So that's an absolutely great skill set to have.
That's my problem, and I think it was hard for my dad to delegate as well.
Yeah, founders have a hard time. I mean, it's your
Very.
baby, right?
Very.
And
he's great at that.
you don't want anybody else to do it differently, because this is how you got the success, was by doing it this way, right? So here are two different areas of the business. What does the future look like for you two? Because again, you don't probably butt heads a lot because you're in two different departments, and your dad is still actively involved.
I think that's the most amazing part.
Yeah.
We butt heads never. And we're so different, and we're on totally different sides of the business, and it actually couldn't have worked out better. He wants nothing to do with sales and marketing, and I can't stand operations.
I'd be on your side.
Yeah,
I'm on the sales
yeah.
and forget the operations.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
It takes a different skill set, right?
Very. So I thank God for that all the time. We're so fortunate. And then between me, my brother, and my father, I honestly think the three of us together are unstoppable team.
So what is the plan, or have you developed a plan or a fire drill if anything happens to your dad?
That's been, I would say, the last 5 years for us. The last 5 years for us has been kind of putting all the pieces in place for the future. And you have to really look at yourself and look at the business, and you have to be honest, and you have to find where you think there may be some holes and how you're going to fix them moving forward. And I think we've identified that. So we're moving in the right direction.
So have you documented it? Is it something that you've shared with the other family members, like your spouses or mom? Or
Yeah, and in this situation...
what about employees as well?
I think in this situation, we talk about our business with our wives, maybe on our own time. I don't think we sit down like me, my father is,
Like
my
a
brothers.
family
Yeah, we
meeting.
don't do that.
No.
But me, my dad, and my brother, basically 2 to 3 times a week are out to discuss
Perfect
that.
sync.
Yeah, dinners, lunches, we do that often, and that's how we keep the communication.
And what does the future look like for Rubinet?
Well, personally, the goal, from, is growth. I think, spending 43 years building this foundation, this strong foundation, this brand, the awareness out there, we would be crazy not to push it to the next level. So the future is growth. But, in order to do that, you got to ensure the back end can meet the front end. So we're kind of just trying to ensure they're kind of moving in sync, because it's always that balancing act, right? If you go and you get too aggressive on the sales and you can't handle it on the production side, you're kind of in trouble. So we're really beefing up all of our internal systems. We're trying to get really, really good people in place. Like I said, I like to delegate. So, structuring things, giving people some more responsibility, ensuring they're the right people to take on that responsibility, which puts us in a really good position of strength. Because when you hit that go button, you want to ensure you're ready, right? So I think personally for me, the future looks very bright and the future looks big.
So when you have the three of you and you get along really, really well, if you were to take your dad out of the picture, because I've seen this happen, it can kind of, everybody gets along until sort of the leader is not there. Have you talked about what does this look like from a leadership perspective or a direction? Like how do you, right now there's 3 people making decisions, and really it comes down to one person. Your dad ultimately has, I would think, the final say. However, you're very much involved. So what would that look like moving forward? Have you talked about where those pitfalls might happen, or where the struggles or conflicts might happen?
That's a great question, because I would love to hear my dad's answer to that when he was here on the podcast. But, you know, I think that a lot of that has to do with I'm watching my father go through these changes, and having me and my brother come into this role and this position in the business is, I think he's proud and he loves it and he's enjoying it, but it's also hard. It's his identity. Rubinet is who he is. It's kind of formed this identity, and I think for him to pass a lot of these things on to us is difficult, and it'd probably be difficult for me. So we don't push. We just do what we do the best we can, and as the responsibility, as he trusts that we're able to do those things, he's slowly passing them on to us.
But it's also good because, again, because of age of people, things can happen from today you're fine, tomorrow you're not, is to have some of that stuff documented. I know it's one of the hardest things it is for us as founders is to document, or to, you know, to have policies or procedures that you understand. I don't know why you did this, or who his contacts are, or where they are, or the, you know, the sales stuff. We need to sort of get that out of their heads, right? But here's the thing: there's two of you, which is a fairly easy transition, right? Now you just got to decide who's going to lead it. You know, your co-CEOs, one's a CEO, one's a CFO, like what's happening. But then becomes the next generation. Now you've got 4 kids between you, I believe. Five kids between you. Now it becomes difficult. Now you've got 5 that you're trying to create this structure and set this governance in place, where it's not just you and your dad sitting there. Because what you have to do is start to agree on, this is how we're going to handle these, because our 5 kids might not get along, right? So we all get along, but let's say if we did have a problem, how would we solve it? So that it starts to be documented for the next gen, right?
Yeah.
Do your kids ever fight amongst themselves?
I mean, my son and my daughter will bicker back and forth, and I'm sure
3 boys.
You know what, Tammy?
I
I don't think we thought that far
right?
ahead.
But but this is where it's important, and you know, it's talking to a second generation and how things run so smoothly. A lot of cases you don't think about it because things run so smoothly, right? And you say, okay, we're all in agreement. It's like, I like to refer to it as a prenup. You want to do it when you're happy, and everything is you know, smooth. You go, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
So just wondering if you've talked about the future, but have you talked really about how would you manage some of those conflicts should they arise? One wants to expand the business, one does not. You know, we've got the creative side. The sales says we need to do this. We need to go down this path. Let's get into this other thing that's a side venture. You know, and the back end operation says, hold on a second, no way, I'm not doing this. How do you make, you know, have you looked at how do you make those calls when it's just the two of you?
I don't think we've got there yet. Like you said, having our father there is kind of, he's kind of been that safe proof against that. He kind of makes the final decision. Right. But it's kind of all happening right now in the last little while.
Personally, I think we'll be pretty good. There's been, you know, a lot of things that are going on now where I find that because we are, we each bring like a different aspect. There's almost like a tertiary person we create amongst ourselves when we're discussing things because we bring different perspectives. And through his perspective and my perspective, a lot of times in the middle, we align with something that's a little bit of each of ours. And I found that on these issues that have come up between us that we go out and we discuss, or we have a meeting about, or we're talking on the way home, or there's a very good open communication between us. So, I mean, yeah, we're not 100% there yet, but I do believe we will be fully capable.
That's amazing, because that's the hardest part. As you know, we've talked about the 3 circles, the family, the business, and the ownership, and how muddled they are in the middle when you are a family, you work in the business, and you have ownership. And even if you don't have ownership in your family and work in the business, it's still, you have to have that clarity about what hat you're wearing when we're having this conversation in the car or when we're meeting over lunch or breakfast. It's like, this is my family hat that I'm talking about, or this is my business hat, or here's my ownership hat. And again, when you've got 5 kids moving forward, they might not be in the business at all, or you might have 1 or 2. What does that look like? And again, it comes to legacy and talking to your dad now and saying, you know what, what is your real legacy? What would you love to see? You know, oh, I'd love to see this being the biggest faucet company in, you know, the world, like Ford was when Henry Ford started his companies. Now it's like a big name, right?
For sure.
But how does that work, and how do you do that, and how do you continue that continuity? Or dad says, no, you know what, I don't care if your boys want to sell it, go ahead and sell it when I'm gone. No, we really want this to be a family business. How do we do that? Because, you know, you don't have to be working in the business to maintain the ownership, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting. I don't think we would be able to achieve that, to be honest with you. Just the type of business, and maybe it's just the way we were brought into the business. Maybe that's the way our father wanted us to think, but we very much feel like we have to have our hands on it. And there's a lot of creative aspect to the business as well. Staying on trend, coming with the right looks, the right finishes. There's a lot that goes into it. Just the type of business it is. We call it the fashion business, even though we're in plumbing, but it really is the fashion.
Well, when you look at your faucets,
for sure,
they're very fashionable.
Yes, very, very. So that's kind of what makes Rubinet so unique. So we can't lose that. Lose that moving forward.
And so when you look at the departments, we've got, you know, you in operations and you in sales and marketing. What about finance? Is that something that falls under your umbrella, or is that a different department that, you know, your dad looks after? Or, you know, are you covering, when you look at the business, you've got a fair amount covered, but have you looked at sort of all elements and said, you know what, maybe there's more education we need. I'm not really skilled at knowing that, but maybe I need a little more education or training or mentoring from my, you know, from dad.
Over time, let's say the past 2-3 years, that's kind of the side that, I mean, my dad always looked after that. Sure, we've had controllers and stuff. Over time, he's kind of been, you know, unraveling some of that for me. I've been absorbing it. I took an accounting course. Reminded me a lot of like when I did like physics in high school, OAC. I'm like, I'm good at math. So I'm like, I'm going to do all the hardest math that there is. And then eventually we get to these waves and how fast the plane is going and vectors. And then I kind of, it's not that I checked out, but that's when I realized these are things that aren't me, that I, like, I'm wise enough to recognize when something isn't me. So accounting, the whole first 3 quarters of it was very interesting. I absorbed it. The last quarter, I'm like, to be honest, I guess that's why there's accountants, and I'm not an accountant, and I'm not going to go to school for 4 years. I'm already way too deep into it. But as we went through a transition recently, a big thing for me was to bring in a junior. And what it did is it allowed me to kind of learn as he's learning. And so you're kind of, you're by default learning from the ground up again with someone who's also learning from the ground up, and you're kind of diving right in the deep end because there's no better way to kind of learn that. Right. So like I said, I recognize what my strengths are and also what my strengths aren't. I'm aware. I'm starting to really get a good grasp on it. But at the same time, there are people who are better than me at that, than I'll ever be at it, because that's what they've been doing for years and years and years, right? But it was important to bring a junior so that I can learn with them. So it's been a very, very, very good experience the past 6-7 months as we're building toward the future. Like, we got to start thinking about the future now. We haven't gone as far, to your other point, about our kids yet, right? Right now, I think it's about setting up the next 5-10 years. And then I think those discussions are going to start happening about what you brought up.
And it's really just about governance, right? It's the way you make decisions, and the way you make decisions that you agree makes sense for the two of you now because you're in agreement would then carry through to the next one. Because what happens if, you know, one of your boys you think is better qualified and you think one of your kids are qualified? What does that look like? So in your case, okay, well, who gets to be the CEO, or what's the chairman, or what's happening? So it's not that it's you have to do it, but it's those things that you need to consider, that when you're making decisions that you sort of document, okay, this is a good way that we were able to make this decision. You know, right now we have Dad, or using his knowledge and all his experience in building this business from the ground up, right? So do you know his exit strategy?
Nobody knows his exit strategy.
Maybe you have to listen to that podcast.
Come on, really? Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, I actually, that's why I mentioned to you, I'm really looking forward to listening to that, because I don't know how my dad's going to do it, to be honest with you. I think we have a strategy, we have an idea of how we want to do it, but realistically, we're not looking forward to our father to leave the business in any way, shape, or form. A lot of our friends have family businesses and they can't wait for the dad to leave. Like they just can't wait. And I think we're the total opposite.
And that's amazing because this is, I love this story that you guys are so well organized and having come in from completely different sort of trajectories as kids into the business goes to show you that you can take those skill sets from whatever you were doing and apply them. 100%. You don't have to be your dad. You don't have to do exactly what he did, but there's other areas that you can excel.
And that's difficult too, by the way, to know how to fit in, to know where you belong in the business is, I think that's the hardest part of the family business. How can I fit into this picture and do what I do best to help the business? Because you can find yourself trying to be something else, or, you know, the company may need this, so let me go try to do that, but that's not what you're necessarily good at. So you got to be very careful to end up in the right area of the business and still be inspired.
Yeah.
That's the trick.
I would love to go to work. So how old are your kids? You've got 5. How old are the kids?
So I had I have a daughter, Ava. She's 13. And I have my son, Domenic, who's 9.
I have Franco, who's 8, a woman who's almost 5, and Dante, who's 1.5.
Okay, so they're still little. Now, does your 13-year-old come into to work at all?
So they'll come with me on Saturdays just to run around. To be honest, I'll go to work on Saturdays and I bring my kids and they just go bother my dad for 3 hours in his office. They're shooting Nerf guns and playing. So I kill his Saturday, but mine, I get a couple hours of work done. So yeah, they come in. And believe it or not, my son will say things to me like, I'd like to work. He's 9 years old and he'll say that to me. I'd like to work at Rubinet one day. My daughter doesn't, but my son mentions it a lot, and in some weird way, I kind of always knew I was going to work there, even from when I was young.
So are you going to bring your boys in?
I actually always make the joke that he's already 3 years late. Right? My oldest, I'd already swept a bunch of floors, I'd already made a bunch of little bidet check valves, I'd already... But
watch the Canadian labor. It's a podcast, eh? But
you're not paid. So is it, if you pay them as that child labor, or if you don't pay them as child labor?
We didn't get paid.
I got coffee crisps. No, but he, much like my nephew, but he has expressed interest, and he's very good with his hands. He's bright. I think that time's coming soon to just come, just spend the day there, see what it's like. It's also good for social skills. You know what I mean? To be around older people and to, witness something different than school and camp and home.
Right.
To be in a different environment.
Because what's interesting, I find, is that kids who grew up in the business, in a business that you could grow up in, that your parents brought you in, maybe not because they wanted to, but maybe because they had to.
Yeah, that's right.
And then the next gen doesn't do the same thing, because that's where you learn, as you say, from 5 years old, from the ground up, you learned. Not because you said, oh, do you want to come with me to work today? It's like, come on, boys, we got to go to work. And I'm wondering if you have that same sort of attitude towards your kids.
You've changed a bit, because at first you would say things like, I don't want the kids to work at Rubinet.
Yeah, it changes.
And why did you say that originally?
Well, because you kind of, same thing approach my dad had, is you kind of want them to see where they will end up on their own first, right? Because you can kind of curb from afar a little bit creatively, right? But I'm very curious where they'll end up over the next, few years before I kind of try and do anything. You know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you a question, Tammy, because at that conference that we went to, a lot of the second generations, a lot of the speakers were talking about if you have kids and you need to start to prepare them to go into the business. And that kind of scared me a bit. Even me and my brother were looking at each other like, I don't know if I want to do that, because we didn't come from that.
Right.
The thing is, though, by the time our kids, Rubinet is, let's say, double of where we're at today, and I don't think you can move on you can't make those type of decisions off a whim,
No, but what I think, makes a big difference is that you bring the kids in and you get them exposed to things earlier. Whether they go off, you don't say you have to work here, but they get exposure because I can tell you that just about every business I work with, before their kids are adults, they'll say, I don't want my kids in this business. Because it's difficult, whether you're in manufacturing, it's the cost of equipment, it's the issue with, the dollar, it could be, whatever economic conditions are going on, the price of fuel, the price of lumber. Every business says the same thing. I want them in something else, and they shove them out to start a new business that they're going to have their own issues, where they've already got a business that has 30 or 40 years in, and you can take your skill set and apply it within that field, or move over to, an adjacent type of business and have them come in. But I think one of the things that having your kids come in early is they're learning about business, regardless of what they do.
That's true,
and
yeah.
Discipline. And they didn't play all day, but they got time to play, but they also saw there was a way to be successful.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's having a 13-year-old. She's just starting to ask, when am I going to work, get a part-time job? Or she's really into that. And my son. So ideally, I'd like to start bringing them on Saturdays they can do some stuff around the office or in the warehouse. And that would be great, and see how they gravitate to it.
Well, do you believe we're out of time? Doesn't that go fast?
That was awesome. Really fast.
I know.
Really
we didn't
fast.
even
That was
really,
great.
Get into some really deep conversations. But anyway, this was fabulous. Thanks
Amazing.
for coming in. And for listeners, I really want you to listen to Dad and then Sons and see how those line up. But anyway, I always like to end the podcast with 3 pieces of advice that you would give to other siblings in business, or bringing in your kids into the business. What would your pieces of advice be? And you can decide who's given 2 and who's given 1.
I'll give one right away. That's basically what I was saying earlier, is find a way to be yourself in the business, if that makes sense. Find a way to bring what you do best, bring your best elements to the business, and you'll naturally fit in better that way than to try to be something you're not and fill a hole in the business that may be there. You're probably better off hiring somebody to fill that role. Yeah.
Love it.
That's what I would say.
Great piece of advice.
Awesome.
I think I want to circle back to earlier as well, where, hindsight's always 20/20 for everyone. But I look back at my younger self, and I think acknowledging, having true, honest conversations with yourself and acknowledging where you stand. I probably, at 20 years old, could have been as committed as I started being at 25. I think I could have started earlier had I recognized the difference between, what I enjoy doing for fun versus what I'm good at. They're kind of different things, right? So I think having that honest conversation with yourself at an early stage in life, by working backwards from where you want to be, it'll help put you on a path a lot sooner.
I love that. That. Okay, one more. Who gets this one?
I got an easy one.
Hit it.
If it's to do with family business, I think always that respect level between, if it's your father or your mother, your brother. We tend to not, if we argue, it'll be outside of work. There's times where my dad will say something to me in a meeting, or, with 20 other staff, and in my head I'm like, this guy just say that in front of everybody. Sometimes the dad comes out even at work.
What hat are you wearing?
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
And I don't
Yeah.
blame him, because
Yeah.
I would probably tend to do that too. But in those moments, you just got to take it in. And if you have an issue, I'll talk to my dad about it after.
Yeah.
Why'd you do that? So I think respect is always number one in a family business. And as long as you have that, you're always going to be able to work out any problems. So.
And that's hard to get sometimes. That's hard to get. Well, thank you very much for
Thank you.
coming in.
Thanks for
I
having
enjoyed
us.
that.
Our pleasure.
And where can they find Rubinet?
Yeah, so you can look us up, www.rubinet.com.
Can you spell that?
Yep, it's RUBINET.com, and you can also...
So Rubinet.
Rubinet. And you can check us out on social, at Rubinet Faucet on Instagram, and you'll see all the amazing jobs we're doing, and all the great hotels and residential properties we do. And you'll also see some of the stuff we do at Rubinet. So all the manufacturing process. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
If you like this episode, subscribe to the Business of Family podcast on your favorite listening platform. You can also find Blue Roots on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. On the next show, I'll be back with another amazing guest who will inspire you with their family business insights. Until then, take care and keep it in the family. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, tax, investment, or insurance advice. Before acting on any advice, please contact your personal or company advisors.